Right now, before anything else, take a second and notice your breath. Not change it, just notice it. Because what I'm about to share isn't something I planned to say. It's something I feel like I was shown, and I can't ignore anymore. For a long time, I kept seeing the same pattern in people. Not just stress, not just exhaustion, but something deeper. A kind of internal noise, like their mind never fully shuts off, like their energy is always being pulled in 10 directions at once. And I started asking a simple question. What actually restores a human being back to clarity? Not motivation, not positivity, not distraction, but real clarity. And what I kept being drawn back to over and over again were practices that are surprisingly simple, almost embarrassingly simple, but consistent across nearly every tradition that ever talked about connection to source, higher awareness, or inner alignment. Not as belief systems, but as lived practice. And I want to walk you through what I was shown, step by step. First, the mind has to settle before anything becomes clear. Every tradition says some version of this, whether it's silence, prayer, or meditation. If the mind is loud, nothing else can be heard clearly. That's why practices like mindfulness exist across cultures. Not to empty you, but to help you notice what's actually happening inside you without immediately reacting to it. Because most people don't suffer from reality. They suffer from constant interpretation of reality. And when you slow that down even slightly, something changes. You stop being inside every thought you have. You start observing them instead. Second, the body has to be brought back online. One thing I kept noticing is that people try to think their way into peace, but the nervous system doesn't respond to thoughts. It responds to signals. Breath is one of the fastest ways to change that signal. That's why breath work shows up in so many ancient systems without them ever needing to meet each other. Slow breathing, deep breathing, intentional breathing. It tells the body you are safe enough to stop bracing. And when the body stops bracing, the mind follows, not the other way around. Even something as simple as walking outside without stimulation, letting your senses recalibrate, can reset more than most people realize. Third, attention is the real currency of your life. What I kept being shown is that your attention is not passive, it's directional. Where it goes, your life follows. And most people's attention is constantly being pulled outward, into noise, into comparison, into reaction, into mental overload. So practices like meditation, prayer, silence, whatever language you use, aren't about escaping life. They're about reclaiming direction. Even just sitting quietly for a few minutes and doing nothing but noticing your thoughts creates a gap. And in that gap, something different becomes possible. Fourth, alignment matters more than protection. This was the part that surprised me the most. It wasn't about defending yourself from everything. It was about reducing internal conflict, because when your thoughts, actions, and emotions are all pulling in different directions, life feels heavy no matter what you do. But when they start aligning, even imperfectly, something shifts. You become less reactive, less fragmented, more present, more steady. And from that state, decisions become clearer without forcing them. Fifth, symbolism helps the mind focus, not block anything. Humans need anchors, something physical to remind the mind of intention. That's why objects, rituals, and symbols exist in almost every culture. Not because the object itself has power, but because attention responds to form. A bracelet, a breath, a moment of silence, a repeated phrase. They're reminders, not shields, not weapons, anchors. And the real shift happens in how consistently you return to awareness, not what you're holding in your hand. My final insight is connection is not something you force. What I was shown, if I can even call it that, is that connection to source is not something you achieve through intensity. It's something you return to through simplicity. Less noise, less resistance, less fragmentation, more presence, more honesty, more stillness. And over time, something stabilizes, not as a belief, but as an experience, a sense that you're not disconnected, you're just distracted. If this resonates with you at all, I want you to do something simple, not for me, for yourself. Comment, returning to source. Not as a performance, but as a reminder of where your attention is choosing to go. And if you want to continue this journey with me, stay connected, because what I share next goes even deeper into how people rebuild clarity, direction, and inner stability in a world designed to scatter it. Like, share, save this video if it helped ground you. And if you're part of this space now, welcome. Not to a belief system, but to a practice of remembering. Because nothing you're looking for is actually lost. It's just been buried underneath noise. Till next time, remember, we're all in this together, fam. One love.